Brothers and sisters, one of the greatest struggles of our time is not something you can see with your eyes. It lives inside the mind and heart. It is the endless cycle of thoughts that keep us awake at night, the constant what-ifs that steal our peace, and the heavy worries that drain our energy. We call it overthinking. It makes simple matters complicated and turns small concerns into mountains. But Islam has given us a powerful gift to break free from this prison, a gift that replaces fear with peace, confusion with clarity, and worry with calmness. That gift is tawakkul, placing your trust in Allah after doing your best. Overthinking is one of the biggest struggles of our time. It creeps into our minds quietly, sometimes without us even realizing it, and then it takes over. A simple thought grows into a chain of endless questions, doubts, and fears. Something as small as a delayed reply to a message can spiral into a storm of assumptions. A minor mistake at work can lead us to replay scenarios in our heads over and over, wondering what others might be thinking about us. The mind becomes like a restless ocean, waves of what if and maybe crashing without pause. We live in an age where information is everywhere, choices are countless, and comparisons are constant. This makes overthinking even worse. People scroll through social media, comparing their lives to others, questioning whether they are enough, whether they are successful, whether they are loved. Each question multiplies into 10 more, leaving a person restless even in the quiet of the night. Instead of sleeping peacefully, the mind replays conversations, reimagines outcomes, and worries about things that may never even happen. Overthinking steals joy from the present moment. A person could be sitting in a beautiful place, surrounded by blessings, but their mind is trapped in a prison of doubts and fears. It prevents gratitude from settling in the heart because the mind is too busy focusing on problems, potential losses, and imagined failures. It robs people of confidence because instead of moving forward, they hesitate, second, guess themselves, and stay stuck in cycles of should I and what if. This struggle has become heavier in modern times because of the pace of life. Everything is fast, unpredictable, and uncertain. Technology gives us more control in some ways, but it also exposes us to more stress and more comparisons. The heart longs for peace, but the mind becomes addicted to worrying. Overthinking creates an illusion that if we think long enough, we can somehow prevent mistakes or control outcomes, but in reality, it only makes the heart weaker and more tired. It steals peace from the heart and fills the mind with unnecessary fear. A person may sit in the comfort of their home, safe and surrounded by blessings, yet their heart races as if a storm is coming. The body is calm, but the mind paints pictures of disasters that do not exist. Thoughts about the future, losing a job, failing an exam, disappointing a loved one, become so vivid that the heart responds as though those events are already happening. The result is a constant feeling of unease, as though something terrible is waiting just around the corner. Fear takes root not because danger is near, but because the mind feeds it. Instead of focusing on what is real, the heart is burdened with shadows of what might be. Even small matters become mountains. A simple decision feels like a life or death choice. A single worry expands into countless scenarios, each one more frightening than the last. This cycle drains a person from within, leaving them unable to enjoy blessings, unable to focus on worship, and unable to appreciate the moments of calm that Allah has placed in their lives. Most worries are about things we cannot control. We spend hours thinking about tomorrow, but tomorrow is not even in our hands. We wonder how people will treat us, what they will say, or whether they will accept us, but their hearts are not under our control. We replay mistakes from the past, even though the past is gone and cannot be changed. We imagine future scenarios, trying to prepare for every possible outcome, but the truth is that the unseen belongs only to Allah. Our minds chase after what has already been decreed, as if endless thinking could rewrite destiny. People often worry about their provision, yet provision is written. They worry about how long they will live, yet life and death are in the hands of the Creator. They worry about the choices of others, yet every soul is guided and tested in its own way. The more we think about these things, the more powerless we feel, because we are trying to carry a load that was never meant for us. Instead of freeing ourselves, we tighten the chains of anxiety, forgetting that control has never belonged to us in the first place. Islam gives us a gift to overcome this burden, tawakkul. It is the light that enters the heart when the darkness of worry tries to take over. It is the rope we hold onto when our minds feel like they are drowning in endless thoughts. Tawakkul is not just a word, it is a state of being. It means you do what is within your power. Plan, strive, make effort, and then you hand over the results to the one who holds the heavens and the earth. It is the realization that no amount of thinking, no amount of stress can change what Allah has already decreed. Tawakkul is freedom from the prison of what if. It allows a person to breathe, to rest, to sleep at night without replaying every possible outcome in their mind. It is the calmness that comes when you remind yourself that you are not in control, and you do not have to be, because the one in control is far more merciful, far more wise, and far more powerful than you could ever imagine. It turns fear into acceptance and restlessness into peace, because the believer knows that trusting Allah is the strongest shield against the storms of overthinking. Tawakkul means trusting Allah after doing your best. It does not mean sitting back and waiting for things to fall into place without effort, nor does it mean neglecting your responsibilities. Rather, it is about putting in the work, using the means available to you, making the right choices to the best of your ability, and then leaving the outcome in the hands of Allah. A student studies with focus, puts in the hours, and prepares as much as possible. But once the exam begins, tawakkul is what keeps the heart calm, knowing that the result is already in Allah's knowledge. A person searching for provision works hard, applies for opportunities, and uses their skills. But tawakkul keeps them from losing sleep at night, because they know that their sustenance has been written long before they were even born. It is this balance between effort and trust that makes tawakkul powerful. Without effort, trust becomes laziness. Without trust, effort becomes a source of constant stress and overthinking. But when both are combined, the believer finds strength in action and peace in surrender. It is the understanding that while your hands must move, your heart must rest with Allah. Allah promises in the Quran, whoever relies on Allah, He is sufficient for them. 65:3. These words are not just a verse to be recited, they are a guarantee from the Lord of the worlds. They remind the believer that when reliance is placed upon Allah sincerely, there is no need to seek strength or assurance from anyone else. To be sufficient means that Allah will take care of every matter, whether it is seen or unseen, whether it happens immediately or unfolds with time. It means that the heart no longer has to cling to people, wealth, or worldly plans, because the one who owns all power has already promised to be enough. This verse speaks to every situation of fear, confusion, or worry. When someone feels trapped with no way out, these words whisper that Allah is the opener of doors. When a person feels weak, these words remind them that Allah is the source of strength. When uncertainty clouds the future, this verse assures them that sufficiency is already written with Allah, and nothing can diminish it. It is a call to let go of excessive thoughts and to hold firmly to trust, because Allah Himself has promised that reliance upon Him will never leave a person abandoned. Overthinking does not change destiny. A person can spend sleepless nights replaying possibilities in their mind, imagining 1,000 different outcomes, and yet the reality will only unfold as Allah has written it. No amount of stress, fear, or mental calculation can push away what is decreed, nor can it bring closer what has not been decreed. The pen has been lifted, and the ink has dried. Every matter is already known to Allah. When the mind becomes consumed with what if, it is as though a person is fighting against the very nature of qadar, trying to take control of something that was never theirs to hold. This is why overthinking leaves the heart exhausted. It demands energy without producing results. It makes a person believe that by worrying more, they can somehow protect themselves from hardship or guarantee success, when in truth, destiny remains untouched. The rain will fall when Allah commands it. Life and death will arrive at the appointed time. Opportunities will appear when He wills. Overthinking is only the illusion of control, while destiny remains firmly in the hands of the Creator. But tawakkul changes how we feel about destiny. When the heart accepts that everything is written by Allah, the same realities that once caused anxiety begin to bring comfort. A believer with tawakkul does not deny that difficulties may come, nor do they ignore the fact that life has ups and downs. What changes is the inner response. Instead of feeling crushed under the weight of the unknown, the heart feels supported by the knowledge that every outcome carries wisdom. The mind may not understand why something is happening, but the soul rests with the certainty that Allah knows better. This shift is what makes tawakkul so powerful. The events of life remain the same, but the experience of them becomes lighter. Where overthinking creates panic, tawakkul brings reassurance. Where worry whispers, "What if I fail?" tawakkul answers, "If Allah wills, it will be for my good." It transforms the believer's relationship with destiny from fear to trust. The decree of Allah does not change, but tawakkul turns it into a source of peace instead of pain. We must work, plan, and try sincerely. This is part of faith. A believer does not simply sit back and expect everything to fall into place without effort. Islam teaches us that striving is an act of worship. To wake up early, to make an honest living, to study with dedication, to care for family, and to use the blessings Allah has given. These are all forms of effort that are required from us. Even the prophets, who were the most beloved to Allah, did not live without striving. They worked, they struggled, and they put forth their best, all while keeping their trust in Allah. When a farmer plants seeds in the soil, he waters them, protects them, and does everything within his means. That effort is necessary, but he cannot command the rain to fall or the sun to shine. In the same way, we are instructed to plan our lives carefully and use our abilities, but we acknowledge that the results are not in our hands. The sincerity and effort shows Allah that we value the opportunities He has given us, and it reflects true faith, because faith is not only about belief in the heart, but also action with the limbs. After effort, surrender the result to Allah. Once you have studied, worked, planned, and done everything within your means, the heart must learn to release control. This is the stage where many people struggle because they confuse responsibility with ownership. We are responsible for trying, but we do not own the outcome. A person may prepare with all their strength and still face an unexpected turn because the final result rests only with Allah. Handing over the matter to Him does not mean you stop caring. It means you acknowledge His wisdom beyond your limited vision. Surrendering the result is a form of relief. It removes the unnecessary burden of carrying what was never yours to carry. When a believer says, "Ya Allah, I have done my best, now I leave it in your hands," it is like placing a heavy weight down after walking a long journey. The body feels lighter, the heart steadier, and the mind calmer. Effort is what shows your sincerity, but surrender is what brings you peace. Overthinking is holding on too tightly. Tawakkul is letting go peacefully. When a person overthinks, it is as though they are gripping a rope with all their strength, refusing to loosen their hold even though their hands are bleeding. They believe that if they just keep holding tighter, they will somehow control what happens next. This constant grip drains the heart and suffocates the soul because life was never meant to be lived in such tension. It becomes a cycle of obsession where the mind refuses to release matters it cannot fix, replaying them again and again, as if worrying harder will change the outcome. Tawakkul, on the other hand, is the gentle release. It is like unclenching the fists and realizing that the weight does not need to be carried alone. It does not mean giving up, but it means allowing the heart to rest while trusting that Allah is carrying what you cannot. When a person embraces tawakkul, they stop struggling against the current and instead let the flow of Allah's decree guide them. This release is not weakness, it is strength, because it takes courage to let go and admit that control belongs only to the Creator. The Prophet taught calmness in the face of uncertainty. Throughout his life, he faced moments that would have shaken anyone to their core, times of danger, times of fear, times when the future looked unclear. Yet his trust in Allah kept him composed, and his calmness became a lesson for the believers. When he and Abu Bakr were hiding in the cave during the migration, enemies were so close that they could have been seen if they only looked down. In that moment of great fear, Abu Bakr expressed his worry, but the Prophet reassured him with words that continue to comfort us today. Do not be sad, indeed Allah is with us. That calmness was not from ignoring the danger, it was from knowing that Allah's presence is greater than any threat. Even in battle, when the enemy outnumbered the Muslims, his serenity was remarkable. He raised his hands in dua, trusting completely that Allah would bring victory at the right time. In moments of hunger, hardship, or rejection, he did not let anxiety consume him. Instead, his heart remained steady with faith, teaching us that calmness in uncertainty is not about having control, but about relying on the one who has full control. His companions trusted Allah even in the most difficult times. They were tested with hunger, loss, fear, and battles where the odds were stacked against them, yet their hearts remained firm. When they were surrounded by enemies and the situation appeared hopeless, their trust in Allah gave them courage instead of despair. In the Battle of Badr, they were few in number and poorly equipped, yet they went forward with conviction, believing that Allah's help was greater than any weapon or army. Their trust was not just in words, it was lived through sacrifice, patience, and unwavering reliance on the promise of their Lord. When the trench was dug around Medina, and the believers were under siege, surrounded by tribes plotting against them, fear gripped many hearts. But the companions looked to Allah's messenger and said, "This is what Allah and his messenger promised us, and Allah and his messenger spoke the truth." Their faith allowed them to see beyond the hardship in front of them. They trusted that Allah's plan was unfolding, even when their eyes saw only difficulty. It was this reliance that turned weakness into strength, despair into hope, and fear into resilience. True peace does not come from controlling everything, it comes from trusting Allah's control. Many people spend their lives chasing the illusion of control. They plan every detail, they set expectations, they try to prepare for every possible outcome, yet no matter how hard they try, life finds a way to remind them that not everything is in their hands. A sudden illness, an unexpected loss, a change in circumstances, all of these moments reveal how limited human control really is. The more a person tries to hold on to everything, the more restless their heart becomes, because the world was never designed to bend entirely to human will. Peace begins when the heart understands its place. When a believer accepts that Allah is the one in charge, the burden lifts. The effort still remains, but the weight of needing to control every outcome disappears. It is like a child traveling with a parent. While the child may not know the road, they rest comfortably because they trust the driver. In the same way, true serenity is found when we trust that Allah is guiding the journey, even if we cannot see the destination clearly. The storms of life may continue, but the heart that trusts in Allah remains calm, because it knows the captain of the ship never loses control. Overthinking drains energy, tawakkul restores energy. When a person overthinks, their body may be sitting still, but their mind is running a marathon. Every possible scenario is played out, every decision is questioned, every fear is magnified. This constant cycle leaves a person exhausted, even without physical effort. The mind grows tired, the heart feels heavy, and even small tasks begin to feel overwhelming. Overthinking consumes time and strength without producing solutions, leaving a person weaker than before. It is like pouring water into a bucket with holes. No matter how much you fill it, it never stays full. Tawakkul, on the other hand, refreshes the heart. When a believer does their part and then surrenders the matter to Allah, The mind no longer needs to replay endless possibilities. Energy that was once wasted on fear and doubt is replaced with calmness and clarity. Instead of being drained by uncertainty, the believer is strengthened by trust. This is why people who place their reliance on Allah often appear more at ease, even in hardship. Their strength does not come from having fewer problems. It comes from carrying their problems differently, through the lens of faith, not fear. Worrying about what-ifs is a trick of Shaitan to make you restless. He whispers doubts into the heart, planting seeds of fear about things that have not even happened. What if you fail? What if people laugh at you? What if you lose everything? What if tomorrow brings disaster? These questions are endless, and they have no real answers because they are built on imagination rather than reality. Shaitan knows that if he can trap you in the cycle of what if, he does not need to stop you with actual obstacles. Your own mind becomes the obstacle, keeping you frozen in hesitation and fear. The whispers of Shaitan aim to disconnect you from trust in Allah. Instead of remembering that your life is in the hands of the most merciful, you are made to feel as if you are standing alone against 1,000 possible dangers. He magnifies small uncertainties until they look like mountains, and he convinces you that the only way to protect yourself is to keep thinking, worrying, and replaying every possibility. Yet in reality, all this achieves is restlessness. The heart is robbed of peace, and the person feels weaker, not stronger. Shaitan celebrates when a believer spends more time drowning in what-ifs than turning to Allah with dua and trust. Tawakkul brings clarity, calmness, and contentment. When a person chooses to trust Allah after doing their best, the fog of confusion begins to lift. Decisions that once felt overwhelming become lighter because the heart no longer demands certainty in every detail. Instead of getting lost in endless what-ifs, the mind finds direction by remembering that Allah is guiding the way. Clarity comes from knowing that while the future is hidden from us, it is never hidden from Allah. This realization simplifies life, allowing the believer to focus on what can be done now, instead of being consumed by what cannot be controlled. With clarity comes calmness. The racing thoughts begin to slow down, and the heart learns to breathe again. Fear of the unknown is replaced by trust in the knower of all things. The believer finds the strength to rest, to sleep peacefully, and to walk through life with steady steps. And in that calmness lies contentment. Instead of measuring happiness by what is gained or lost, the heart settles in the belief that whatever Allah chooses is ultimately better. Contentment is not the absence of trials, but the ability to live through them with a heart that remains at ease because of trust in the Creator. Life will always have uncertainty, but faith turns fear into strength. No matter how much we plan, no matter how carefully we prepare, there will always be moments where the road ahead is hidden. The future is unknown, and the human heart naturally feels uneasy when it cannot see what is coming. A person may worry about their livelihood, their health, their family, or the direction of their life. These feelings are part of being human, yet when faith enters the heart, uncertainty no longer has the power to paralyze. Instead of fearing the unknown, the believer finds courage in knowing that Allah is already aware of every step ahead. Faith transforms the way uncertainty is experienced. What looks like darkness to the mind becomes an opportunity for trust to the heart. The same situation that might fill someone with panic gives strength to the one who remembers that Allah is the best of planners. Fear of failure turns into hope for Allah's wisdom. Fear of loss turns into reliance on Allah's mercy. Faith does not remove the uncertainty of life, but it changes how we stand in front of it, stronger, calmer, and more resilient, because we know that whatever lies ahead has already been written with purpose. When doors seem closed, Tawakkul reminds you that Allah opens better ones. There are times in life when every effort seems to fail, when every path you try to take ends with obstacles, and when opportunities slip away just as you thought they were within reach. In those moments, frustration and disappointment weigh heavily on the heart. A person begins to wonder why things are not working out, questioning whether they are being left behind or forgotten. Yet Tawakkul whispers a different truth. Sometimes a closed door is not a rejection, but a protection. What you thought was good for you may have hidden harm, and what felt like loss may be clearing the way for something greater. This realization gives the believer hope even in disappointment. Instead of feeling crushed when life does not unfold according to their plans, they find comfort in the knowledge that Allah's plan is superior. The heart that trusts in Allah learns to see beyond the immediate no and waits patiently for the better yes that is yet to come. What looks like an ending is often the beginning of something greater, and tawakkul is what keeps the believer steady until that greater door is opened. Every test is written. Your overthinking cannot rewrite it. Before you were even born, before you took your first breath, the pages of your life were already recorded by Allah. Every joy, every hardship, every success, and every trial was written with precision and wisdom. When difficulties arrive, they are not accidents or random misfortunes. They are part of a script that has been decreed long before you even imagined them. Yet the mind often refuses to accept this reality. It tries to wrestle with destiny, replaying moments and imagining countless alternatives, as though thinking harder could change what has already been decided. But overthinking cannot erase a single line of what is written. It cannot delay what has been appointed, nor can it bring forward what is meant to come later. If a test is decreed, it will reach you no matter how much you worry. If a blessing is written, it will find you no matter how much you doubt. The effort of overthinking is like trying to stop the sunrise with your hands. It is impossible, and it only leaves you tired. Recognizing that every test is written is what frees the heart from unnecessary struggle, because destiny unfolds exactly as Allah has planned. But your trust in Allah can make it easier to bear. A trial on its own can feel unbearable, weighing on the chest like a mountain. But when the heart leans on Allah, that same mountain feels lighter. Trust does not erase the pain or remove the difficulty, but it changes the way you carry it. Instead of walking alone with a burden too heavy for your shoulders, you walk with the knowledge that the most merciful is supporting you, guiding you, and never leaving you to face it on your own. That sense of companionship softens the hardship and gives you strength you did not know you had. When calamity strikes, people who rely only on themselves often collapse under the weight of it. But the one who trusts Allah finds patience, because they believe that every hardship has wisdom, and every moment of pain is known to the one who created them. Trust becomes a shield against despair, reminding the believer that Allah's mercy is greater than any trial. The difficulty remains, but it is no longer crushing. It becomes a means of drawing closer to Allah, a reminder of dependence on Him, and a path towards growth and reward. Say to yourself, Allah has written my story, and His plan is perfect. These words are not just a reminder, they are a shield against the storms of doubt that attack the heart. When you repeat them sincerely, you are realigning your thoughts with the truth that nothing in your life is random. Every chapter, whether filled with joy or trial, has been carefully placed by the one who knows you better than you know yourself. His plan is not flawed, it is not incomplete, and it is never unjust. Even when your eyes cannot see the wisdom, your heart can rest in the assurance that His knowledge encompasses everything. When you whisper these words to yourself in moments of confusion, they calm the racing thoughts that try to convince you that life is spiraling out of control. They remind you that you are not lost. You are exactly where Allah has decreed you to be. His plan may not match your desires, but it always surpasses them in goodness, whether in this world or the next. To accept this truth is to free your mind from endless questioning and to anchor your soul in a peace that cannot be shaken by changing circumstances. Tawakkul is not laziness, it is working hard, then resting the heart with Allah. Too often, people misunderstand trust in Allah as an excuse to abandon effort, to sit back and wait for life to unfold without lifting a finger. But true tawakkul is the balance between striving with all your strength and then letting your soul find peace in Allah's decree. It is to study for the exam with diligence, to seek work with sincerity, to care for your health with effort, and then to say, The outcome is not in my hands, it is in the hands of Allah. This balance keeps a believer active in their duties without drowning in anxiety over results. Laziness is to neglect effort and still expect provision, while tawakkul is to recognize that provision is tied to both action and divine will. When the believer works with sincerity, they are fulfilling their responsibility, and when they release the results to Allah, they are freeing themselves from the chains of worry. Tawakkul gives the heart rest after effort, assuring it that whatever outcome arrives, it is not failure. It is part of the perfect unfolding of Allah's wisdom. In this way, the believer finds energy in striving and tranquility in trusting. Remember the dua, Hasbun Allah huwa ni'mal wakil, Allah is sufficient for us. These are not just words, they are a lifeline for the troubled heart. When fear surrounds you, when your plans collapse, when people fail you, and when life feels too heavy to carry, this dua becomes a source of strength. It was the very phrase recited by the believers in times of danger, when the odds were against them, and when uncertainty threatened to overwhelm them, saying, "It is like placing your burden into the hands of the one who never fails, the one whose power is unlimited, and whose care is constant." When you whisper Hasbun Allah, huwa ni'mal wakil, you are affirming that no problem is greater than Allah, no enemy is stronger than Him, and no loss is beyond His ability to restore. It transforms weakness into courage, reminding you that you are never standing alone. The world may seem uncertain, but Allah's presence is certain. People may disappoint, but Allah never abandons. This short dua carries within it a universe of comfort, lifting the heart above the noise of worry and planting it firmly in trust. When anxious, turn worries into prayers. The mind has a habit of replaying the same fears again and again, as if repeating them will somehow solve them. But worry only multiplies the weight of the heart, while prayer transforms that weight into something meaningful. Every anxious thought can be redirected into a supplication. Every fear can be carried into conversation with Allah. Instead of asking, "What if this happens?" the believer kneels and says, "O Allah, protect me from harm and guide me to what is best." Instead of silently drowning in uncertainty, the believer raises their hands and places the matter in the care of the most merciful. This act of turning worry into prayer is powerful because it changes the direction of your energy. Rather than being trapped in endless cycles of fear, you are channeling those emotions into a connection that brings peace. Prayer does not just ask for solutions, it brings the heart closer to the one who controls all outcomes. In those quiet moments of dua, the anxious heart begins to calm because it remembers that it is not powerless. Prayer is proof that you are never left alone with your burdens, for every worry you place before Allah is lightened by His mercy. Allah loves those who place their trust in Him. Imagine the honor of being loved by the Creator of the heavens and the earth, the one whose mercy is vast and whose knowledge is complete. Trusting Allah is not only an act of faith, it is an act of devotion that draws the believer closer to His love. When a person relies on Allah with a sincere heart, they are demonstrating humility, acknowledging that they cannot manage life alone and that they need the guidance and care of their Lord. This humility is beloved to Allah, for it reflects sincerity, obedience, and complete submission to Him. When trials come, many people turn to anger, despair, or even blame. But the one who chooses tawakkul instead shows Allah that their faith is not dependent on ease. It is steadfast even in difficulty. This reliance becomes a mark of true servitude, and Allah in His generosity responds with His love, His mercy, and His help. Knowing that Allah loves those who trust Him gives the heart a sense of security, because it means that with every step you take in reliance, you are not only finding peace, but also earning the love of the one who is above all things. Every difficulty carries hidden wisdom you may not see now. When hardship strikes, the first reaction of the heart is often confusion. Why me? Why now? It feels unfair, it feels heavy, and it feels as though there is no benefit in the struggle. Yet what is hidden from our eyes is never hidden from Allah. Behind every difficulty lies a lesson, a protection, or a blessing that may only reveal itself later in life, or even in the hereafter. Sometimes the delay of something you desired is to save you from harm you could not imagine. Sometimes the loss you weep over is the very event that pushes you closer to your Lord, teaching your heart reliance, humility, and strength. The wisdom of Allah is like a seed planted in the soil of hardship. At first, all you see is darkness, pressure, and difficulty, but with time, that seed begins to grow into something beautiful. What looked like the end becomes a new beginning, and what felt like breaking turns into building. The believer may not understand the wisdom in the moment, but faith assures them that there is wisdom, even if it is unseen. Trusting this truth allows the heart to carry difficulty with patience, knowing that every hardship is an invitation to growth, closeness to Allah, and a deeper understanding of His mercy. Tawakkul transforms fear into hope and doubt into patience. Fear often begins with the unknown, the uncertainty of tomorrow, the possibility of loss, the thought of failure. Left unchecked, it grows into despair, making a person feel trapped in their own mind. But when the heart remembers Allah and places its trust in Him, that same fear begins to shift into hope. The believer no longer focuses on what might go wrong, but instead leans on the possibility that Allah will bring something better, something far beyond what the mind could have planned. Fear is replaced by the comfort of knowing that nothing escapes His care. Doubt is another weight that burdens the soul. It whispers that perhaps you are not capable, perhaps you will not succeed, or perhaps your prayers will not be answered. Tawakkul quiets these whispers by reminding you that outcomes are not tied to your strength alone, but to Allah's will. And with that reminder, doubt softens into patience. You begin to wait with trust, knowing that if something is delayed, it is for your good, and if it is given, it is at the perfect time. Tawakkul does not erase challenges. It reshapes how the heart meets them, with hope instead of fear, and with patience instead of doubt. A believer's heart should be tied to effort, but their peace should be tied to Allah. Life demands action. Studying for exams, working for sustenance, caring for family, striving for goals. These efforts are necessary, and they reflect responsibility and seriousness. But the heart of a believer does not confuse effort with control. They know that their role is to try, to use the means Allah has given, and to leave no stone unturned in what is required of them. Yet their peace, their sense of calm, does not come from the illusion that their effort guarantees the result. It comes from knowing that after they have done their part, the outcome rests entirely in Allah's hands. This balance frees a person from both laziness and anxiety. If they tie their peace only to effort, they will live in constant frustration when results do not match their work. If they abandon effort altogether, they betray the responsibility that faith demands. But when they work with sincerity while placing their ultimate peace in Allah, they find harmony. Success does not make them arrogant, because they know it was a gift from Allah. Failure does not break them, because they trust there is wisdom behind it. In this way, the believer walks steadily, striving with their hands, but resting their heart with their Lord. True success is not in overthinking every detail. It is in surrendering to the one who knows every detail. The human mind craves control. It wants to anticipate every possibility, calculate every outcome, and prepare for every scenario. This endless planning creates an illusion of safety, but in reality, it drains the soul. No matter how much a person thinks, they can never account for every factor, because life is filled with the unseen. One phone call, one meeting, one moment can change everything. Overthinking every detail does not grant control, it only exhausts the heart. But surrendering to Allah shifts the weight completely. When you remember that He knows what you do not, that He sees what you cannot, and that His knowledge extends to the finest details of your life, you find relief. You no longer need to predict every turn of the road, because you trust the one who has already mapped it out for you. Success, then, is not about perfect planning, but about perfect trust, working with sincerity, praying with humility, and resting in the knowledge that Allah's wisdom covers what your mind cannot. That surrender transforms the chaos of overthinking into the peace of reliance, allowing you to walk forward with confidence, even when you do not see the full picture.